Okay, hi folks. I've been asked if I would do a YouTube video on tethered shooting in Lightroom Classic, and that's what this is going to be about. I think especially at this time when everybody's at home and they're getting the camera out and trying doing some still life photography and macro photography, this is a perfect way to do that. Instead of just being able to look at the little screen on the back of your camera, you can tether your camera into Lightroom and see your image pop up straight away on the big screen. So the only thing that you do need in order to be able to do this, obviously apart from your camera and Lightroom Classic, is that you need the cable that comes with your camera. Now usually that cable is only about 6 or 12 inches long. It's very short and it's not suitable for doing this. So if you have that cable, then you can just buy a USB extension cable, and I would recommend round about the at least the 3 meter mark. And other than that, you can buy a dedicated tether cable, and these can be bought from any camera suppliers, or there's a company called Tether Tools who make cables specifically for this task, and their cables are usually a bright orange in colour as well. They're a very fast cable, and because they're orange in colour, they're a lot easier to see, and thus you won't trip over them all the time. So you would need to get online and get yourself an extension cable to your camera cable. So to get started with this, it couldn't be easier. So with Lightroom open, we'd come up to the File menu and down to Tethered Capture. And if we click on Start Tethered Capture, then you get this box pops up. And you don't need to put an awful lot of information in here. This first box here is where you whatever name you put in here, this will be the folder name. So this is for your session, and all the photographs from this session will go into that folder. So if we just call this tethered shooting, well, if I could type it, there we go, tethered shooting. So Lightroom Classic is going to create a folder called tethered shooting, and down in this next section here is where you can rename how your images are going to appear. And if you click on the edit box, this is exactly the same box that you get within Lightroom, so you can change how the name is going to appear. I won't go into detail with that because that can be done in another video and it doesn't really come into what you do here. So I have mine set up as a custom setting, and it has the title of the session, which is tethered shooting, and then the number of the camera. Now I want this number to start at 1, so I will change that to 1. This is the destination that folder is going to go into, and you can choose that destination here. If you just click on here, this will just bring up your desktop, and you can tell it if it's going onto an external hard drive or if it's going into your pictures folder. Then you can choose there where it's going to apply. You can add to a collection by clicking this box and it will bring up your collections, but we're not going to do that at this time. You get your drop down menu here to select which metadata, which you should have all set up, and then in here you can put in any keywords that are going to be appropriate to this shoot. So I'm just going to change this to tethered shooting, and then that will be applied into every image into the metadata that I shoot. So we're just going to say OK to that. Now, once we say OK, if you get this box appears on the front of your screen, that is because your camera is connected but not switched on. So I'm just going to lean over and switch on my camera. This will then bring up this bar here. Now this is your control bar for your tethered session. So if we take a look at what is in this control bar here, so this tells me which camera I'm shooting with because it automatically recognizes it. This is the folder where these images are going to go into. This is your shutter, aperture, ISO and white balance. And these are developed settings. Now this says same as previous at the moment, but if I click on this drop down here, then we have any presets that you have set up within Lightroom or just Lightroom's standard presets all appear here. So you can choose any one of these presets. So for the minute we're going to leave it as the same as previous, or you could change it to none. I'm going to leave it as the same as previous, and we'll talk about that a little bit more once we start shooting. So this button here is your capture button. This will actually trigger your camera to take a photograph. So if I just trigger that, then it would take a photograph, and there we go. The photograph now lands in Lightroom full size. So because we don't really need to do an awful lot with this bar, I tend to like to have it out of the way. So I just slot it in up here where I still have control of it, but it's not getting in the way of any of the panels that I want to look at. I'll just reduce this panel here because we don't need it. And from this bar here, you don't even need to go to your camera. If you have your camera set up and focus, then you don't need to actually go and change anything. So if I just come onto here and change the aperture, if we look at the shutter speed here, this camera is set up in aperture priority, so the shutter speed is 1/60th of a second. So if I just go in and change the aperture here, so I've changed the aperture, therefore you can see that it's actually changed the shutter speed here. And if I went in and increased the ISO, it changed the shutter speed again because the camera is set up in aperture priority. So you can change all your settings in here, and you know, it saves walking backwards and forwards to the camera. And your white balance exactly the same. So if I change the white balance to cloudy and take another shot, this should turn out an awful lot warmer. And there we go. So I'll just change that back to auto. Now if you want to change settings and you realised, or you want to put some more keywords in there, then you can just click on this little icon here and you can go back in and alter the settings for this session, and it will change them there and then. So this here, which says same as previous, this is a very good one, because if, for example, I'm just going to that's back on auto, I'm just going to take another shot and our images came in here. So say, for example, I go into if I hit the D key to take us into the develop module, and I want to select this image here. If I come into the crop tool and I change the crop to a 1:1, and I have this set, I say done, and I have this set as same as previous, when I take another shot, this image will be a square image. It will have the same treatment as the previous image. So if I take this image now and say I come into the basic panel and I want to do a black and white conversion, and I go into the profile browser and select black and white, and I've done a previous video on this if you want to go and check it out, and I just select one of these and say close. So now this is a black and white image. If I capture another shot by pressing that button, then I get a square black and white image. But because we're shooting in RAW, then I can just hit the reset button on this image, and there we go, it actually captured the full size image in colour. So I can do the same thing up here. I can come down to, I can select a black and white low contrast preset and shoot with that, and if I then take another photograph, then I will get the black and white low contrast, and then you can just come in and do, you know, make your adjustments. So it's well worth doing, and shooting this way gives you the ability to look in detail. So if you're shooting a flower, for example, and you're looking at your depth of field, this is a great way to do it. And of course, even when you're tethered, if you want to see a bigger picture, if you hit the F key, you can go full screen. So you can not only just go full screen, but that you can then also hit the enter key and go up to 1:1 at full size. So you can really look in depth at what it is you're shooting. And if I hit the F key, that'll take me back again. You can really look in detail at what you're shooting and look how the light's working on it, and look at your depth of field, and get a much better idea of what it is that you're working with. And it couldn't be easier. So if you want to do some capturing at home, there you go. That is the way to do it, especially if you've got a laptop. So you can take a laptop into any room in the house and you can use the light from a window, for example. It's a fabulous way to work. Even if you're working outside, which is, it's very difficult to see your screen outside, and you could have a cover over your laptop and be able to look at it in detail. And the other advantage is, of course, is that you don't then have to take the card out of your camera and bring it in and import it into Lightroom, because the images are already there. You have to remember when you're doing this is that the images don't go onto the card in the camera. They literally go directly into Lightroom and into the folder that you designated at the beginning. So you won't be able to go back and get the images off your card in your camera. They will not be there. So you need to make a second backup of your images after you've done your shooting session. So as usual, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up to give me a thumbs up, and if you have any questions you can put them in the comments below the video and I'll answer them, obviously, if I can. And I hope you enjoy, and I do hope you go out and get a cable and do some tethered shooting. It's marvellous. Okay, thank you. Bye.